So in the UK, we all love spaghetti bolognese. But if you go to Italy, it doesn't actually exist. It's not actually a thing. Because the bolognese sauce is from northern Italy and they would never eat it with spaghetti. So today we're doing bolognese pasta. Well, it's actually a bolognese sauce, or a ragu you would call it, but we're going to make a super beautiful, rich sauce to go with our pasta. We have ground pork, and then we've got a sort of equal amount of beef, and today I'm using beef cheeks or ox cheeks, which is such a beautiful flavour. It's something that a lot of people may not have tried, but you really should try it, especially with something like this, because the flavour from it is just, it's got to be one of the best parts of a cow. We have pancetta, which I've already pre-diced. We have red wine, we have beef stock, tin tomatoes. You could use fresh, but tin is actually, in some ways, it works better. We've got onion, tomato puree, we've got celery, garlic, chili, just a small one for this. You don't need a lot, or you don't have to have the chili. And then we've got carrots. The pasta we'll do separate. You could just use a store-bought pasta. Absolutely fine, really nice, get good quality. Or, like today, you could make your own egg pasta, so I'll take you through the process of the egg pasta. It's not that difficult. It's just such a nice thing to do. And it is better than a store-bought. I'm going to start by just browning the meat. So olive oil in the pan, hot pan, very hot pan. And then I've diced the beef into sort of 3/4 of an inch cubes. I'm not going to do it all at once. I'm just going to do it in 2 batches because it's a lot easier to brown it. So I really want some nice colour on this, because that's where we're going to get the flavour. These beef cheeks are just so good. If you haven't tried them, you should. And it's actually quite a cheap cut of beef as well. And it's just so flavoursome. You can see I'm actually doing quite a lot here. The way I do it is that I will do plenty, and I will freeze probably most of this because it is so good. Keeps well in the freezer. I'll just vacuum seal it into bags, and then when I'm ready to use it, pour one out. So I'm sort of batch cooking in a way. I'll probably get, 10 meals out of this. So I've got a nice colour on there now. So I'll do the second batch. So I'll just put this into a tray. Final thing to do just before we finish this one is a little splash of wine. I'm just using white wine. You could use the red that we're going to use to cook in, and we're just going to deglaze that pan because all that flavour is stuck to the bottom of the pan, and we want to make sure that that goes into our sauce. So exactly the same with the pork, the ground pork. Going to fry it, and you've got to make sure you get plenty of colour in this as well. Again, that's where the flavour is. So I'll just do it in 2 batches. break it up as we go. But you really want that nice colour, because that is where there's loads of flavour there. We're going to get a beautiful, rich sauce. I'm just starting to get a nice colour on that pork mince, but you'll find that with the mince, it'll always end up on the bottom of the pan. So what I will do with this one is just deglaze it with each batch. So now we're going to start building the sauce. So olive oil in a large saucepan or stock pot like I'm using, plenty of olive oil. And I like to start with the pancetta. Some people would do the vegetables first, but to me this makes sense to really get the flavour out of it. So just on a medium heat, and I'm just trying to get some colour into that, which again is our flavour. And then next we've got, what I've done is finely sort of chopped the vegetables, the onion, the celery and the carrots and the garlic. So, I mean, typically, it's a very typical base for a sauce really. It's a flavour base. In French cooking you'd call it a mirepoix, but because we've added the garlic, which is more Italian, it's a soffritto. In the UK or America, maybe just vegetables, I don't know. Comment below if you know if it's got a name. But it's a basic flavour base. You get some nice colour on there, so we'll now add vegetables. I tend to leave the garlic just for a little bit. We'll just cook this out for a couple of minutes and then I'll add the garlic. So I'll just turn the heat down a little bit. I just want it on a low heat. I'm not really trying to get colour into the vegetables. Just sort of softening them a little bit. I'll add the garlic. I've just grated the garlic. You could just crush it or just finely chop it. And then we've got the chilli. Just a small chilli. I've left the seeds in because it is just small. You're not going to get a strong sort of heat out of that chilli. It's just going to add a touch of flavour. So they're just starting to soften. I like to keep it moving. Because I don't want it to catch on the bottom of the pan and burn. So I'll just keep it moving in the pan. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half of the tomato puree. And that adds a nice richness, but make sure you add it now and cook it out a little bit. It'll also help thicken the sauce as well. Red wine. I'm going to use round about half a bottle in this because I've got quite a lot of meat there. As long as I save a glass for later, that's fine. You don't have to use a wine. If you don't want to use alcohol, you could just use a stock. But the red wine does help a lot with the flavour of this. Just let that cook just for a minute or two. Some gets rid of some of the alcohol out of the wine. Then we'll add the tomatoes. So I've got 2 tins, 2 400-gram tins. Could use chopped tomatoes. I'm using whole. It doesn't really make a big difference. They're going to break up anyway. But you will find that with these sort of Italian brands, it does make a difference because you can see there's sort of like a thickness, a richness to the sauce. It's not just sort of watery. So they cost a little bit more, but definitely worth getting if you can get them. Now we'll add the beef. So the thing with beef cheek, it does need slow cooked. It needs cooked for a long time, but as with any pasta sauce, it does want to be cooked slow. You know, it's like a 2-hour cook, just to really get them flavours going. Then we'll add the mince. Now I'm just going to season it, salt and pepper. We'll check the seasoning later though, as it's cooked. We'll just check that it's right, and we can always add more. So I don't go crazy at this point. And then the stock. So I'm just using a tinned stock because I don't actually have any that I've made. So I'm using a beef stock. You could use chicken stock or a vegetable stock. It's fine. It actually smells really good already. So we're going to cook this on a low sort of simmer for about 2 hours, because then beef cheeks are really going to start to break down nicely, and the flavours are really going to build and get into the meat. So lid on, I say every 15-20 minutes or 10 minutes if you like. Just give it a stir and it'll be beautiful. Homemade pasta, it's so easy. You need 00 flour, 00 flour, 00 flour, 007, 00 flour, 00 flour. You need eggs, so 100 grams of flour to 1 egg. So I've got 400 grams and I've got 4 eggs. You'll need, well, you don't need it, but it's easier with a bench scraper. And you need a rolling pin. Or you need a big rolling pin, which is much more fun, because, you know, when you're bored and waiting for things, you can play baseball. So, flour on the bench. You could have a pasta machine, but not use a rolling pin. I do have one, but I thought, well, you guys might not have a pasta machine, so we'll do it this way. Tip the flour on the bench. make a well in the middle. That's perfect. Crack in the eggs without the shell. You could use, instead of using whole eggs, you could use maybe 2 whole eggs and 4 yolks. You get a little bit more flavour and more colour. But whole eggs are fine. Then we need a fork and just break the eggs, and then we're just going to start to sort of bring in the flour. Just take your time. It's pasta making shouldn't be rushed, I don't think. It's such a nice thing to do. I've got this real passion for pasta making. It's like an art. It's so, you can get so creative with it, with all the different pasta shapes, raviolis, and it's really nice. We should do more of it. I mean, store-bought dried pasta is good, but this is way better. So just gradually bring in that flour. Then we can get rid of that. And we'll just bring this in. Sauce is still cooking away nicely over there. Smells beautiful. When are we getting smell-o-vision on YouTube? Soon, I hope. Right, so might need a little bit more flour. So then just start to bring it together, just to form like a dough. Then we're going to knead it, because what we want is a nice smooth sort of elastic dough. So it takes probably around about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Just sort of fold it into the middle, push it out. All you're doing is sort of stretching it. That's what kneading's about. It's sort of stretching and mixing the flour and the eggs. There we go, so that's starting to get nice and sort of smooth now, a bit more elastic. It's a little bit of a workout, but it's not too bad. You could do it in a machine with a dough hook. You find that with small amounts of pasta it doesn't really work as well, so you maybe want to mix a bit more. You can freeze fresh pasta as well. It's a good way of doing it. When you're making it, make extra and you can freeze it. And something I've been doing today, you can also colour it as well. So beetroot colouring, well, it's not so much colouring, it's flavour. And spinach, so which is nice actually. Right, so now what we're going to do, just get this into a slightly flatter shape. I'm going to wrap it in cling film, put it in the fridge for about half an hour just to rest. So while the pasta's resting, we'll just have a quick look at this sauce, which smells amazing. And you can see that the beef has really sort of broke down because we slow cooked it. If there's sort of lumps of beef, which there isn't a lot in here, you could, if you use a metal spoon, you can just sort of push it against the side of the pan, and just because you want them broken down, because the idea of this sauce is that it's going to stick to the pasta. A good pasta sauce will stick to the pasta, and you're going to get the flavour in the pasta rather than having the sauce separate. It's got to be part of the pasta. That looks good. If you found that there was too much liquid in there and it wasn't quite thick enough, that's perfect. All you need to do is just put it on a higher heat on the hob, and just keep stirring it. Don't leave it. You've got to keep stirring it, otherwise it might burn on the bottom, and that'll just reduce the liquid down just to thicken it up. But that looks really good. Right, we'll have a little taste, because if we're gonna need seasoning, we can do it now. That is so good. That needs nothing. That is a perfect sauce. Pasta's rested, and you can feel it sort of soft, you can feel it sort of smooth even through the cling film. So we'll get some flour on the surface. We're going to need quite a bit, because that amount of pasta is going to be fairly big. I'm actually making extra pasta today, and I'm going to freeze it. Making a tagliatelle type of pasta, flat pasta. And a little bit more on the top. And then from the rolling pin. Oops. So take your time with this. There's no rush. It's initially it'll start to want to sort of spring back because it's quite elastic. It's actually easier with a longer rolling pin than it is with a short one, to be honest. It just seems a little bit easier. So we're actually looking something around about a foot long. So if we get the pasta to a certain length and then certain width, and then we can roll it to length. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at pasta, you know. Not even Italian. Oh, I don't think there's any Italian. I think it's just Liverpool. Right, that feels good, nice and thin. We'll go with that. So we're going to go, the length of the tagliatelle will be that length, that way. Just so it's a little bit easier to handle. I'll just cut it into two. And then what we're going to do, just get a bit more flour on this. What we don't want is it to start to stick together. Once I've actually done the cuts, I don't want it to stick together. So you can actually use I'm just using the 00 flour, but you can use rice flour when you're rolling out because it doesn't absorb the moisture as much. So we just start this side, this edge, and we're just going to roll that up. And I'll just grab a cutting board. And then all we're going to do is just going to slice it into, I think, just a little bit more than sort of 1/4 of an inch. But if you feel you want it a little bit wider, that's fine. Or narrower. So then, once you've got your cuts, there you go, you've got your pasta. Simple. So the pasta just takes sort of 3-4 minutes to cook. It's quite quick. So I've got some of the sauce in the pan, and then we'll just add the pasta in. And don't worry, we've got quite a thick sauce there, so don't worry if you're getting some of the pasta water in, that's fine. And switch to these. Yeah, a little bit more, I think. And then we're just trying to get a nice coating of the sauce on all of the pasta. So what you can do, if you think you need to, just add a little bit of the pasta water. Which will just thin the sauce a little, just help it coat, get on all of the pasta. Right, that looks perfect. Right, so there's a little bit of a knack to serving the pasta. These tongs are really handy, not just for pasta, for a lot of things. So I would say long, sort of straight tongs. So we just sort of wind the pasta onto your tongs, like that, and then into a ladle, and then it'll begin to sort of slide off. And then into your bowl, and then we carefully just slide that down the tongs. And that's how you serve your pasta. A little bit of parmesan. I'm going to go crazy with that though, because the flavours in that sauce are so good. So there we go. That's our pasta bolognese, proper Italian style.